Hello and welcome to Identities Conversations. I want to acknowledge the partners who are here. We've got Zoom, Zimbabwe News. We also have Sly Media. We have, as I said, we have Zoom, we have Sly Media. We are supposed to be joined by some more. Bastop was supposed to join us. Maybe they'll join us at some point. We have 263 chats in the room. We are here to talk about an issue that Zimbabwe has been waiting for, and it's a critical issue that we need to talk about. I have Miss Charity Dlodlo with me, who has alleged that Prophetic Healing and Deliverance Ministry PhD founder Walter Magaya has sexually abused her and other women. In the Sunday Mail article by Garikai Mazara last Sunday titled Magaya's Bombshell, he outlines what Dlodlo and Sarah endured in the hands of Magaya. In the case of Chenai Maenzanise, whose parents came out outlining the systematic way in which Magaya molested and abused their child, who was below the age of 18 then, Chenai came out refusing the rape allegations, but not the fact that there was a child or there was once an affair. I want to repeat that. In the case of the Maenzanise allegations that came out, the child, Chenai, came out refusing the rape allegations, but not the fact that there is a child between them or there was once an affair between them. Sarah has also recorded on video where she claims it's lies that came on newspapers. But also she is also seen on a video describing how the prophet approached her naked at a house in Borodale after giving him money. As it is reported, he refused to use protection and he refused to use condoms. I have the pleasure of introducing again Mrs. Charity Dlodlo to Zimbabwe, to the world, who has engaged us as Identities. In fact, we approached her and we said, would you like to tell your story to the world? Because we've been hearing a lot of stories at this church, and Mrs. Dlodlo was very happy to do that. Welcome, my sister, to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've read the description, the outline that we've been following up in the newspapers, and I think Zimbabwe wants to know what really was going on, and I think that and also you were very eager to talk to me and to tell your story. I'd like to say, maybe start by introducing yourself and tell us about yourself.
Okay, my name is Charity Dlodlo, like you've already said. I am a 42-year-old grandmother. I have 3 kids and 1 beautiful granddaughter.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a swimming coach by profession, although now I think I'm doing other things besides coaching swimming, especially now that we are off season.
Right.
And I'm now based in Malawi.
Amazing. And I think Zimbabwe knows you as an actress. We fell in love with the beautiful Charity on TV. Are you still acting?
Yes, I am still acting. I actually always come back just for shooting from Malawi.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. When did you move to Malawi?
2017.
Okay. So we're here to talk to you about what came in the newspaper, in the Sunday Mail, and to just understand your relationship with Prophet Magaya and his church. What has been your relationship like? When did you join the church? Yeah.
My first day to be at PhD Ministries, I had been hearing about PhD Ministries and I had never set my foot at the ministry up until 2 August 2015. I remember this day so well because it's a day for me that I've always told people that it's a day that changed my whole life, or so I thought.
How did it change your life?
Okay, first and foremost, being in they call it the arena of liberty. On the 2nd of August, it was a big Sunday. I went there with my family. I had never manifested before in my life. And as Prophet Magaya came onto the stage to do his opening prayer, that is when I manifested. I 10 minutes later, at one time I'm busy worshiping, and then the next 5 or so minutes later, I don't even know how long, I woke up right in front of the congregation and cameras were all over me. Later, I then began to understand that's what they called manifesting. Like I said, it had never happened to me, so I actually was quite confused when I woke up in front. I was taken from there, and they took me to counseling services, because there are a lot of counselors who are there to help you, especially when they realize you are in a state of confusion. Yeah, basically that's it.
So maybe just outline to say, okay, so you manifest on your first day, this is in 2015, and then how did you proceed? Did you join the church during that time? And maybe tell us the whole story of what happened then.
Okay. From that day onwards, because this was a Sunday, I made sure the following Wednesday I was there, because this had never happened, and I was so, maybe one way I can say, excited, because when they explained to me that demons were, being provoked by the anointing of Prophet Magaya, there were so many things going wrong in my life at that point, especially my marriage, and I felt that me continuing to be in the ministry will solve the problems that I had then. This is why I kept on going there. I would be there almost every service. And then a month later, I think it was the 13th to the 15th of September, I was in the guest house. At that time, he didn't have the hotel. There were still individual guest houses all over Harare, and I was in one of them. So during that time of the time when I was in the guest house, on the last day before you go out of the guest house, this is whereby you have a one-on-one with the man of God, and it always happens at church, but in his offices. This is where you go in and he gives you a word. And when I entered his presence, this was the first time I entered now into his presence, and he asked me about my marriage. What is happening with your marriage? Because Dlodlo is actually my married name, but there were so many things going on, like I said. So he explained to me about my marriage, and he said all will be well. And I received that word and went out. A week later, he then approached me through one of the ministry workers.
This is still in 2015.
This is 2015. Whereby the ministry worker said, no, Prophet wants to know if you'd be interested in doing ministry work. Yes. So I was so excited, because I would always see the ushers, the people at the choir, and I thought, wow, this is God. I really need to be in this ministry so that I can also spend more time in God's presence.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just want to take you a little bit back to when you checked into the lodge,
to the
guest house. To the guest house. What was going on? Who were you interacting with? Were you praying? If you were praying, with who? Because we already know at the end you're meeting the prophet. But during the time, what are you doing with who?
Oh, okay. From the Friday service, when you're in the guest house, you are taken to church by buses from the ministry. They take you from the guest house to church, whereby Friday there's the service. Saturday, we spend the whole day at the guest house, going through counseling. Okay. I remember my counselor that I sat down and I was telling her my story is Beauty. She actually works at the hotel now. So I got the opportunity of explaining to her exactly what is going on in my life, why I had come to the guest house.
Right.
And then that's the Saturday. Then the Sunday, the whole day you are in church, praising and worshiping God.
Right.
And then after that you go to the guest house. And then Monday now, this is the day that they say it's a day whereby you go through full deliverance. Prophet Magaya always makes sure like he delivers people by touching their heads maybe 5, 6, so many times. And most of people, that's when you manifest. And for me, manifesting meant, okay, my problems are less and less every time. The demons that are being provoked are, you know, living my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So you tell us that, okay, now you have joined, you have started coming to church, you were prayed for the first time, you're going to be fine, your marriage is going to be restored, and then he sends a person to say he wants to work with you. And then what happens the week later?
Okay. After he said he wanted to work with me and I agreed, that is when I started vetting testimonies. Vetting testimonies is whereby if you come with a testimony, say for example you are saying you've got high blood pressure problems, I would need then to go through your medical records of your before and then the after part. Maybe you'd also need to tell me where you came to the church and the man of God laid his hands upon you. Like as in a way of saying this testimony came from PhD.
Okay.
If it doesn't happen, like maybe you didn't come and he didn't lay hands on you or you didn't use the anointed mantles, we would not say that is our testimony. And we would then also need to see an after, whereby you go back to the doctor and you don't have that problem anymore. So during the vetting of the testimonies, I think initially there were about 9 overseers whom I was working with. But yeah, the time I left, I think there were about 3 or 4 overseers left in the church.
When you are invited to vet testimonies, do you know whether there'd ever be a person in that position or not?
As for me personally, did I know?
Pamakanzi, you're now starting to do the job you're vetting.
Okay.
Was that position created for you?
No, there was already someone who was, I don't want to mention her name, but
do not mention names.
There was already somebody who was doing that before I came.
And then what happened to that person?
Oh, we were doing it together for some time until she left.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. So now you're vetting testimonies. Please proceed. How then? So from vetting testimonies, what else happened?
Okay.
How are you progressing? We're trying to get to where we are today. So we just want you to kind of give us the gaps.
Okay. From vetting testimonies, I would also translate testimonies live on Yada TV. Like when you speak in Shona, I translate into English for the benefit of those who do not understand vernacular language. So these were my duties. After some time, maybe about 3 or 4 months, I then started, because Prophet knew I'm in the acting industry. And then he said to me, since you're also in that industry, you can take this chance to train others. And then I thought, okay, wow, this is my passion. So I gladly accepted again. And I would meet the young girls and boys from maybe around 16 years right up until, I don't know, 40, 45 years. That's the age group I was working with. And would meet at the church every Tuesday and every Thursday. That is also the time that I started getting, can I say, maybe closer to the man of God, because normally it's very difficult to go into Prophet Magaya's presence when you're just an ordinary church member. If you're not a ministry worker, or if you're not maybe a partner or something, it's quite difficult. So because of those duties that I was doing, I got closer to him, because I would also give him a feedback of what I was working on. I also got to work on skits. He would just give me short concepts to work with. So I would produce those and show them to the world.
So would these kids be shown on TV? What would they be used for?
No, there's a Yada Theatre and Film Actors page, whereby I would just post those, and sometimes would invite people to the theatre, to church. There's a room that they call the theatre, so that people can, we have a theatre, a live
entertainment.
Yes.
Okay. So you're working with him, and then what happens?
Okay, as I was working with him, after some time passed, I remember he called me once to his office. At this point, I was not communicating with him. I would communicate with him. Maybe sometimes I didn't have his number, that's what I mean. I would communicate through Admire Mango, who is an overseer, or some other overseer at church.
Right.
He then said to me, Prophet wants to see you, of which after, on that particular day, I remember it was a Wednesday
Is
service.
this still 2015?
No, that's 2016 now.
Okay.
It was after a Wednesday service, and he said, Prophet wants to see you like now. I rushed to his office. And then Prophet said to me, I believe there are people who are stealing money from the ministry, and I need you to help me to trap those people and bring them to book. Okay, I was so happy to do anything for the man of God. So anyway, he told me names that I will not say. He told me the names of people that I'm supposed to trap. He gave me $200 to use as bait. So I got my partnership card and another from a friend, and I gave these two guys and I gave them money. For example, if your partnership card, you're supposed to pay $20 a month. I give this guy $100 and he's supposed to update my partnership cards like for 5 months. Now this guy would update maybe for 8 months, but I would not get a receipt, and he would take the money and put it in his pocket. So both of them did that. I trapped them on a Monday. Remember, this was a Wednesday service. I trapped them on a Monday, because during the week I was still trying to get very close to them to find out how exactly they are doing it, and I pretended as if, I also want, to benefit a little something out of it, of which they agreed, fine. So on that particular day, after trapping them, it was a Monday service, Prophet Magaya came out after seeing visitors. In fact, before visitor service was over, he came out and he went into the security cabin whereby these guys had been, they took them into the security room to make sure they don't go away until the man of God sees them. There was Prophet Magaya, his overseers, even Mama Magaya was there outside the security cabin. Prophet Magaya started beating up these people.
Prophet was beating this man.
Up, yes, because one of them, he actually was saying, I took you to school, I did so much for you, why would you steal from me? And then that guy answered something, charity, I was at a distance whereby I was not at the door, I didn't hear much. But then I heard, Prophet has got a loud voice, and he said, Charity Ndinda Mutuma. And I'm standing outside there and I'm saying, oh my God, I don't think he should have told these people, because it actually created a lot of enemies for me.
To expose you.
To expose,
when you were
exactly.
His undercover investigator. But I just want to ask also at that point, before you proceed, to say, why did you agree to be a security? Because I'm thinking this ministry is a very big ministry, and you're a newcomer who's maybe barely in a year, and then you're given this opportunity to be an investigator. Did it even occur that maybe you could have declined or something? I don't know.
Well, at that particular moment, when you in PhD ministries, you're like brainwashed, I can say. Maybe you don't think straight at that particular moment when things are happening. For me, it was just protecting the man of God, protecting his finances.
How many of us want to protect the man of God? Okay.
People shouldn't steal from him. This was me, and I was more than happy to do it. To say, no, if people are stealing, I'll stop. But what I just didn't think was fair, him exposing me.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. But please proceed, and then you hear your name, he's calling Charity, you're devastated, why he's exposing you. What happens next?
Yeah, after that, I remember I was working on that particular assignment. I was also working with somebody who, he's not an overseer, he's somebody who's very close to Prophet Magaya. His name is Mr. Mazuru. You'll also see him from the chats. I think you saw his name from the chats yesterday. And I even texted him and I said, but how can Prophet just say my name like that? It actually puts me in danger, Yeah, anyway, so that was the end to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you continue working with him in what capacity?
Still vetting testimonies, of course, still as a very close spiritual daughter. Then I was also continuing with the acting lessons. Prophet at one time said to me, I want you to beware of a girl named Sarah Maruta, who's also in your acting class. Sarah Maruta was in my acting class, and we were quite close. And at that time, I didn't ask beware of what, but he just said to me, when Sarah says something to you, you should make sure you tell me whatever she says. She's not as good as she seems. At that point, although, you know, sometimes you want to doubt, but because you think he's a man of God, you believe him more than you'd believe even your own parents.
Yourself, probably.
Exactly. So what I did then, Sarah became very close to me. She would even come to my house, would spend time with my kids and everything. And then I remember very well the day Prophet Magaya left for Israel is the day Sarah called me and she said, Sis, people from the church call me Sis Cherry. Sis Cherry, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, it's fine. Where are you? I was in town. We met at a local restaurant. We had lunch. After that, that's when she said to me, because before I had asked her what sort of business she does, after noticing she always had money. And then she tells me she's in the chicken business. I said, oh, okay, fine. So on this particular day, she said, no, I lied to you. Remember when I told you I'm in the chicken business? I said, oh, so what do you do then? No, Sis Cherry, I don't know if I should tell you. Please keep it a secret, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, it's fine, I'll keep it a secret. Although I knew I was going to report if need be. Yeah. So anyway, that's when she started saying, I was raped by Prophet Magaya. As she's talking, I'm thinking, no, this girl is nuts. She's, you know, how can she be raped by Prophet Magaya? It's not possible. But anyway, I kept on listening to her. She actually had a breakdown. And we even had to go out from where we were because we were actually attracting attention. So when during the week Prophet was in Israel, I kept on communicating with Sarah every day, asking her even over the phone, also, you know, you need to be calm and blah, 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 comforting her and stuff. Because Prophet Magaya told me to be very close to Sarah. When he came back, on the particular day he came back and came for service, I'm the one who even went to his office and I said, Prophet Magaya, I need to see you. Remember when you said, I need to beware of people like Sarah, what, she came in to me and she said this, and I told him everything that Sarah had said. And then he laughed. He said, there's something wrong with that girl. I think she's still undergoing deliverance.
But you were also undergoing deliverance, but you're still in the ministry. But,
yeah. So anyway, no, this girl needs to. So anytime is she still communicating with you? Oh yes. He's even said, okay, when you come like on Sunday, I'll send Admire Mango to come and collect your phone so that he can print all the chats that you are having with Sarah. I said, okay, no problem. And Sarah would communicate every single day. Sometimes even if she's quiet, I'm the one who would say, Sarah Kondeip, just for her to start, you know. And then Sarah would continue her stories. So Prophet Magaya would send Admire Mango, they would be collecting information from my phone. Up until a day Sarah just called me in the morning. She was so pissed off. She was shouting at the top of her voice, Sis Cherry, I didn't know you could do that to me. You were telling Prophet Magaya everything that I told you. How could you do that? How could you betray me like that? I caught you. And I even replied, I said, no, you didn't catch me. I'm the one who caught you. You are delusional. There's nothing like that. You were lying all along. Then just Sarah cut the phone. From that time, I did not talk to Sarah up until recently. You get to know recently why. Yeah. So anyway, during this time, I'm thinking, Sarah is obviously delusional. And I stopped communicating. But now, I kept on seeing Sarah in church. She would even go into the guest house, and I'm now confused. what is happening? If she was really raped. So for me, I said, oh, okay, she was obviously lying, because you cannot keep on going back. Well, so I thought. So right after that, Sarah then, as I continued to see, I wasn't talking to her at this point. And then about 3 months after I was handling, or was it 4 months, you will see maybe from the chats that I had with Prophet Magaya. Prophet Magaya, I remember on this particular day, I was in town with my daughter, and he sends me a message. Hi, this was now the first time for him to communicate directly to my phone and not send someone. He's now saying, hi, I was praying for you. Can you come to Prospect? Now the hotel was there. Can you come to Prospect? I need to see you. I was praying about your life. I got so excited. I even told my daughter, hey, Prospect Chichi Daddy. At that time, he was still Daddy, Prophet, whatever. Daddy needs to speak to you.
Are you actually asked to call him Daddy? I mean, who starts with this calling Daddy? How I was that calling him Daddy?
I can't answer that, but okay, for me, I can't say we are told, but it's something that you just catch on as other people are doing it. It's just like the kneeling. When you come into church as well, you start kneeling, even though you can't maybe explain why you're kneeling before Prophet Magaya, like as a sign of respect. It's something that you just do when you're in the church. Anyway,
so you're asked to come to Prospect.
I'm so excited. I go to Prospect. Now, on this particular day, I remember I noticed, you know, when you talk to somebody every day, you know, like how their eyes move and everything, you think you know everything about them. On this particular day, Prophet was different. He was like more friendlier towards me. And at that time, I didn't think much of it because I was still a spiritual daughter to him. And he says to me, you know, Charity, my problems, you know, I can help you, I can change your life. You know, I've been praying about this, blah, blah, blah. And oh, my heart is so beating, I'm so excited. He gave me $500 US.
On the particular day?
On that particular day.
Before or after you tell him about your problems?
No, after I told him about my problems. No, I'm still having problems with my husband, what. And he knew these things. And prior to that, he had actually been paying for my rentals. Because when my husband, it's a long story, but anyway, he had actually been assisting me with my rentals. And on the rental, it's not like he assisted me only. A lot of people in the church get assistance from him, whether rentals, whether it's fees. It's not something that you'd say, oh, where is this coming from?
Does this include men in the church, or it's a lot for women?
I think it's mostly women. Yeah, because even when we would go like to Prospect to collect the rentals or whatever at the end of the month, you'd notice in the guard room, 3/4 or 95% of the people in there, they are women. And sometimes, you know, when they're coming from seeing CCBU, who always gives out the rentals, it's like you've got an envelope. So, you know, you're putting, so I'll know, okay, everybody's getting an envelope, of which mostly are women. So, but for me, it wasn't a thing, where is this coming from? Because it used to happen to a lot of people. Now, on this particular day, I got $500 US, of which it was an amount like he had never given me before. Oh, thank you so much, Prophet. May God bless you. May God increase you. All the praises and the shower I gave him. When I got home now, he sent me a message. I'm missing you. And I'm saying, I didn't respond then because I thought it was meant for someone else. It came to me, you know, by mistake. I didn't respond. The next thing he calls me.
Which year is this, by the way?
That's 2017.
Okay.
The next thing he calls me, call indaba kusapindura message. And I'm saying, Charity, ndikuzviziva. Anti ndiri kukufonera ndikuzviziva ndiwe. Ndikati ndangofunga kuti yakasika Prophet. I addressed him as Prophet that time. Zvikanzi iwe ichase munhu mukuru wadi kunditi daddy. And I'm like now stuck. I don't even know how to respond. You know, you are just in a state of confusion. Anyway, from that time, messages started coming in each and every day. He would ask me, wajge, whatever. And remember, okay, I didn't want to say this, but I think I need to say that so people can understand. I am still legally married, but I'm not together with my husband for a long time.
Right.
I'm still using his surname. It's
You're separated.
Yeah, we separated. It's an arrangement that is there, that I'll keep the marriage, the name and everything. So he would always pray for me, like in church, and say, receive your marriage. So I remember then I would say, if he sends something that I don't want to respond to, I would say, for example, like I would respond and say, there's so person, or send a photo of somebody in the church who's interested in me. Yeah, because there were people who would be interested in me, but because he would encourage in church during his teachings and say, if you're a true daughter or a son of mine, if you want to go into a relationship, you need to consult me. You just don't go into a relationship, because sometimes you end up with the wrong people. I need prophetically to see the sort of people that you want to go into a relationship, of which I thought, no, it was, you know, it was okay, because I believed that, well, prophetically I can't see, but he can see into my future. So anyway, he started sending all these funny messages, and then I would send like a photo of somebody.
So what funny messages? Yeah, I think people deserve to know, if you are able to say, unless if you don't want to say, it's okay. But
no, I guess I can say, because
some of them, if it's crude, maybe you can,
Oh.
but maybe kind of explain to us what sort of messages you started receiving, escalating from I miss you.
Okay. Messages like, I love you. And then I would say, I love you too, Prophet. Then you would say, no, not that kind of love. I really love you. And then I don't know how to respond. And then I would send like a picture of a guy. And then he would say, I told you, you are mine. And now I'm thinking, is he psycho? What is he talking about?
Wow.
I've even got messages you'll see from my chats again, whereby he would say to me, I want to marry you. And I'm saying, this is the same man who has taught me to value myself as a woman, and yet he prays for me every time. Receive your messages, because if you see most people who go to PhD, they will tell you Charity is always manifesting. And every time I manifest, I always talk about marriage. With the demon, whatever, speaking through me. And of which it's a concern that I continuously had, because I felt, no, I need to be married. I cannot live a life like this. So this is why even maybe I kept on going back. I always believed somehow that this is the place whereby I would get my marriage. And I would even see people in church getting married, single mothers and whatever you. And I kept on hoping, no, one day he will forget about these funny things that he's doing. I will make him forget about me. I will just show him that I'm not interested, and he will forget. So I kept on going to church. The messages kept on coming. They kept on coming. Until a day whereby I say to myself, I was sitting in church, I said, no, this can't go on. And actually on that day, he made it worse, because as I was sitting in the church during time of offering, he normally goes outside. He texts me a message that I'm not able to preach because of your cleavage. And I'm saying,
Wow.
no.
Wait, cleavage?
Yeah, I don't think I dress funny. I always make sure I'm covered up. After all, I'm a grandmother, and I mean, I'm not at that age
How old is
whereby...
Magaya? We're just going to talk about this stuff. How old is he?
35, 36.
A young
I'm
man.
not sure.
Okay,
Somewhere there, yeah. So anyway, at this point, that's when I say to myself, no, I cannot continue to go through this. Because even in church, he would sometimes come and start preaching as he's standing like right next to my chair. I was a ministry worker. I would sit at the pastor's bay at the end row. Everybody, even if you see videos, you would see the position that I would sit like there, and he would come, he would stand there, and he would start preaching. and I would end up not hearing anything he
No,
saying.
so we want to just come to the message of
Okay.
cleavage.
Okay.
He comes out and then he texts you. Why do you keep your, first of all, is there a reason why you are on the phone during the service? And then second of all, how did you react to him sending you a cleavage text when you're in church?
Okay. As a ministry worker, sometimes like there's something going on at the IT. IT is my department, was my department. So I always needed to have my phone. Maybe there's a verification that is needed on the testimony and a veta or anything. So always I would even be holding my phone in my hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So how do you react when you are told that your cleavage?
Firstly, I looked at myself, realized I'm covered. Because in church, if you're a ministry worker, by the way, we are not encouraged to wear trousers. You're always in a skirt or in a ministry t-shirt or whatever, you know. And I said, how am I acting towards him that he keeps on abusing me in this way? This is the time now. Before, I don't know why I would keep on going back, but at this particular moment, I said, no, enough is enough. Now I'm the one who's going to burn in hell because I continue going to that church, and yet I know that this is the sort of man I am dealing with.
Right.
This just has to stop. The other reason why I kept on going there, we would go there with my whole family. So for me, all of a sudden, to start saying to my kids, I felt I've got grown-up kids. My last boy is 18. I needed to explain to them why I would stop going to church. At first, I would make excuses like every Sunday. I would either say I'm shooting at work or I am sick. Up until my daughter was now concerned. And she was even saying to me, Mommy, do you realize that the devil is attacking you seriously? How can you be sick every Sunday? It's because I could
So
not...
your daughters didn't know what was going on during this time?
No, they didn't.
Were you not concerned that maybe, were they not in contact with the prophet?
I would rather not speak about that. Yeah, my daughters need...
No, I'm just thinking that as a mother, this is happening to you, and your children are going to the same church. Are you not concerned? Why I'm asking is because when we hear the Mayenzani's story, where the Mayenzani's father and mother came out and said their daughter was going to church, and they didn't know what was happening to their child.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking that, could it have crossed your mind that because many girls are around him, they might be vulnerable? I'm asking about your thought process right now when this thing is happening.
I'm afraid I cannot answer that, because if I do answer that, I would have to continue
To
in
explain.
an area that I do not want to go in
At this
to
point.
right now. Yes,
Right.
I think I will leave that to the court. I'm obviously going to go into court. Some things I would rather then start talking about. them
I
there.
respect that.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Right, so this is the moment whereby I said, no, enough is enough.
So this is the day of the cleavage text.
Yes. And then as soon as he came back into the church, people I think were surprised, because you don't stand up and walk out of the church when prophet is preaching or speaking, whatever.
You're one of the leaders in the front.
Exactly. And I just put my phone in my bag, took my bag, and I walked out as he was preaching, because I realized now, no, this is just gone beyond, you know. Yeah, so I walked out. I remember I even went and I sat in my car up until the church was over, now waiting for my daughter. Yeah, so throughout that service, I was in church. I was in the car.
Now, when the texting started, the I miss you and all these things, how was your interaction with him when you came to church, when you saw him, whether it's in church or even Kubasa, because you were now working for the ministry, from the day you got that text, how did you interact with him?
Okay. I would make sure I was always in his presence with somebody. I then started going to report my duties in church with somebody.
And what is their relationship with Sarah at this time? Because remember, Sarah has told you these things. You have snitched on Sarah, if I could use that word. And when this started happening to you, did you even think of reaching out to Sarah and to begin to realize that maybe you made a mistake about Sarah's story?
Okay. I did think of reaching out to her, but I didn't have her contacts. I didn't even think about reaching her out to her on Facebook. Up until the time I noticed recently, when she started insulting Prophet Magaya on Facebook, that is when I decided now to
You mean
inbox her.
Sarah was insulting Prophet Magaya on Facebook?
Oh yes, actually her posts, or even when I would post something now, she would always respond. And sometimes it would get so bad, it was just me and Sarah talking, you know, insulting Prophet Magaya, both of us.
Okay.
That is when I realized, oh, well, I had a part made whereby I can say, okay, maybe I'll talk about it later. All right, let me talk about that later, about Sarah's part. Okay, so at that time now, I stopped going to church. But I also have things that I cannot talk about because they have to go to court.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I'll not dwell on those issues, but I actually kept on going to church after a month, after 2 months. There were certain things that I needed to do, or can I say maybe I also needed closure on some things.
Yeah, so I managed to go through your texts that you shared with me a lot regarding a lot of people, and I think we will choose to stay on the issue that, the center of the issue, the sexual assault that you allege that the prophet did. But please, so I realized that at some point you don't believe Sarah, but now you're bringing your story. Why should we believe you when you failed to believe Sarah, another woman who was calling out for help in your church?
Okay. On Sarah's case, I will take full responsibility. I know it was wrong not to have believed her, but it's just that when you are not in that church, you do not understand. You are like believing Prophet Magaya so much more than anyone. So for me, at any given time, I would have believed Prophet than Sarah. Now your reason for you to believe me, you've obviously gone through my text. That is reason enough for you to believe me. And I'm not just stopping here. I am going into the court of law to prove my case because I have all the evidence.
Fair enough, and I need you to understand that I believe you because every day I work with women who are abused and girls who are abused, and I understand the difficulty of gender-based violence, be it kurowa chaiwa kunoitwa vanhu nemurume wake nemukadzi wake, who abuse kunoitwa vanhu mudzimba. Oh my God, I'm a Christian, and I know the overemphasis and power that the prophets, all these prophets have, to the extent that even parents can choose to not believe their own child over the prophet. And this power of, I think we have also seen Gumbura, how he manipulated the whole church, sleeping with women and all these things. So I would never find, remember I came to you when we reached out to you and I told you I needed to hear your story and tell your story. It was before you even told me or gave me your text. So I didn't need your text to believe you. The text only helped me to understand the nature, how engrossed, viewers, I have gone through texts and I've gone through messages that include Sarah, that I would never want to be the one publishing them. It takes Charity to do that and anybody else who's involved, but there's enough evidence to show a lot of things that have been happening, and I chose to come to speak to you because I have many questions as much as viewers have. For example, why did you keep going to this church where you're being abused? Because you obviously, these things are happening, you know there are other women who are going through this, and probably by that time, every time you're seeing you're going to collect an envelope for your rentals, maybe many, so probably at that point you're actually already knowing that, many of us. How do you explain your continuation in going to this church when this was happening?
I have, maybe three reasons. One, I needed closure. I needed an apology from Prophet Magaya. So I kept on pushing, even if you saw from my text, I would push Overseer Mango to say, and these were exactly my words from my text, I am tired, I am fed up, I need closure, I need to understand why he decided to do that to me. Because I was so PhD, I would sleep, I would talk, I would eat, PhD. It was like my whole life. And so having him do that to me, it was like it crushed me. Up until this point, even spiritually, it is just so difficult for me to believe that there's a real man of God anyway on this earth. And also the other reason was because of my children. I didn't know how to start explaining to my children who loved this man of God so much. I've got a son, and it's always difficult for a mother to talk to a son. This is why maybe first I spoke to my daughters, and then after my daughters, my son only found out recently, maybe when I went to court. This is when he found out, because I could not tell him. He's grown up. So for me to start explaining those issues to him, it was something that I felt I couldn't do. I wanted to protect him because my son is like a follower of PhD. He's always on his laptops following every preaching. For me just to say to him, stop, I couldn't.
So you were desperate for an apology to mend the relationship so that you can continue going to this church and to get past this probably mistake that you think it's a mistake.
No, at this particular point, it was not an apology for me to go back to church. Maybe I was kind of confused, but I don't think to go back to church, because I then realized at this point, it's when I said, I cannot keep on going, because I realized I will not be praying to God. It would be so wrong. Yeah. So it was just to give me that self-satisfaction. When a man kneels down and says, I am sorry for what I've done to you. I have ruined your life in so many ways. I am sorry. And maybe having him shed tears, maybe that I thought would give me like comfort, a peace of mind. Maybe the closure to say, even if I see his face, I'm not insulted. To hear his preaching, it would, I think, for me, it meant I could then carry on and just say, oh, let me leave those who are going to PhD like that. I don't know if it makes sense.
I totally understand you, and I feel your pain. I feel your desperation for closure, and I feel your desperation to move on, to say, okay, I need to put closure. I need to deal with this so that I can move on. And probably what I'm hearing is so that your Christianity and your values, your Christian values are not tainted. I want to ask you a question that I've never asked you. Do you still believe that at that church, that is God manifest? Because you shared that you manifest a lot from the day that you got into that church to now, you have been manifesting. Do you feel like it's God that's working at that church, or to say from the point that he texts you on a cleavage while people are collecting, and then he comes back and he continues preaching? How do you process that?
That's a difficult one. I am kind of confused. I'm really confused. Sometimes I'm thinking to myself, he's a man of God, but has serious weaknesses that he really needs somebody to help him. Because also having been in church whereby I would vet testimonies, if somebody comes with a skin disease, onamatirwa, ndowona 2 weeks later, akudzoka, skin disease yapana. There's nothing, you cannot fake a skin disease. Pane pato nema pictures before and after. And then, yes, this is the same person. So it's either Arisi Simba ramari or isimba ramari. God is using him, but he has serious, and I mean serious weakness, a serious weakness.
So I want us to go back. Thank you for sharing your truth, because I believe your truth. I believe your truth. And I told you that the reason I'm doing this is because I want to believe you, and I believe you. And I also, I think at this juncture, I just want to share and mention other victims that have come forward, and then sometimes they just disappear. There is Sarah, there's Enesia Mashusha, who did the interview here, the Mayenzanise parents. Herself, she's gone through this. And she's one of the few bold, she's right now in the United Kingdom. She's one of the bold ones who have actually, and that's where we picked, because I think from the Mayenzanise, Enesia did that interview for the Mayenzanises, and then you came and Garikai did your interview. So for me, I'm just building on to a process that's already going on. And then so there's Enesia Mashusha, and then there's Sarah Maruta. Sarah is the one who's refuted the allegation, but yesterday I got a contact of a video where she describes illicitly how Prophet went into a present naked. We also have the Mayenzanise Chennai, and I want to focus to just explain some things which I mentioned earlier on about Chennai Mayenzanise. Chennai Mayenzanise, when her parents describe how she was abused, she also did her own video. I think it was less than 3 minutes. In that video, she says she refuses rape allegations, but what she does not refuse is the fact that there's a child. So there might be a child between her and the Prophet. What she also does not refuse is that there was a relationship. But what is also clear from the messages that her parents and some of the messages that are out is that she was underage, she was below 18. So the reason why I personally took this is because there is a concern that there are sexual or inappropriate relationships in that church that are going with underage girls. So I think it gives an opportunity for authorities at this point to investigate that. So if somebody goes through Chennai's message, she does not refuse there's a child, maybe there's opportunity for a DNA test. She does not refuse there was an inappropriate relationship, but she refuses rape allegations. So I think that's enough ground for somebody who wants to do something to investigate. And then there is yourself, my sister, Charity Dlodlo. And then the first time I got interested in the story of Magaya, when the lady called Petronella 3 years ago started recording herself, Paka herself record herself na Prophet Magaya Vachitaura, when Paka poor mad actor 10,000 as a Christian, it really touched me, because people go and desperately give their offerings out of desperation, and this money is being used to inappropriately for sex, to buy sex. I mean, if somebody's going to be paid 10,000 after having sex with the Prophet, so that money is being used for buying sex. That's my moral obligation as a Christian, why I'm doing this. But I want you, my sister, to take us back to, so there's been the cleavage, and then through our backstage conversations, there's more that happened. Maybe if you could walk us quickly through what then happened. So did you come back to church? Did you get into contact with the Prophet after that?
Right. I started pushing for Overseer Mango, saying I need an apology from the Prophet.
Right.
He organized a meeting whereby I thought, okay, he's now ready to apologize. I think at that time I had not gone to church, I think in 3 or 4 months. When I got to Prospect, I knelt down in his presence as usual, and then he told me to sit, and I did sit on the chair.
So explain to us the kneeling down part. Why do people kneel down?
It's a sign of respect.
Are you told to kneel down?
No, you just
kneel. You're actually surrendering your power. I'm in your presence. Please go ahead.
So after sitting down, I started discussing with him, explaining to him that, listen, I'm angry because I had then already reported my two death threats So I was explaining to him, because that's one of the first things he asked, why did I have to do that?
What had happened? Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe bring us between you getting to see him and the death threats. What happened here?
Okay, death threats started coming in because I had started, as you saw from my messages, I was saying to Overseer Mango, if Prophet does not ask for an apology, I am tired of all this. I want to expose him. I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm just going to do whatever. I will keep on making noise until he apologizes to me. I need to see him and we talk and there's a closure to this whole story, because there was no closure, right? And then so on this particular day, that's when he says to me, why did you need to go to the police? You could have come and spoken to me.
Sorry, I'm going to bring you back again.
Okay.
So you've been demanding for closure and apology.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens? What happens that makes us want you to want to go to the police?
Because I realized, one, I was not going anywhere with this. He kept on sending Overseer Mango with messages. That part also, I don't want to get into it because I would end up skipping some things that are best left for the court. Can I not explain? Yeah. Right.
Okay, you are not able to explain to us why you went to the police in the first place.
No, that is the death threat that I explained. Maybe I didn't get you.
Yeah, so I know the story. I'm wanting the viewers to know why so from cleavage to you going to church on and off, what brought us to want to go to the church, because that part hasn't been explained. To go to the police.
Okay. On my issue, there are two death threats. The first death threat, the docket actually went missing. And when I then realized that this docket is now missing, after continuously going to the police trying to push so that this case goes to court, when I realized that this docket was now missing, somebody advised me, no, I think you really need to push, keep on pushing.
Okay. So maybe to just kind of put the bridge, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I do understand that from the time you were engaging with the Prophet, if that's correct, to the time you're now wanting to see, you are engaging with Overseer Mango, there is a death threat that comes. What is the purpose of the death threat, and who brings the death threat to you?
The death threat, the first one, I said I don't know who the death threat was from, but the person who came to my house said he was sent by Prophet Magaya. This is somebody I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody at church knows where I used to stay.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a shock, even somebody coming and saying they are sent by Prophet Magaya.
So they're sent by Prophet Magaya
to tell me if I don't stop making noise, they will silence me.
So by now you were making noise through what?
Through Overseer Mango.
Okay.
Saying I'm going to expose.
Okay.
I will not keep quiet. And then he actually, if you notice from the text, he even stopped responding at one time. When I kept on with those messages, he stopped. Obviously, he knew maybe I would end up printing and this would be evidence against him. So he even stopped up until the time for the death threats. The second death threat came. That's when now they even wanted to start speaking to me, and I said, no, I'm past that point. I now wanted justice. I said, I'm not speaking to any one of you guys again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when you went to report to the police and the missing docket?
Yes, the first one up until now, that docket had gone missing. And then the second one now, it was changed. The whole docket was changed from the original kind of paper that was written. And I even raised that issue at the police station. I said to them, look, you want this docket to go to court, but it's not the same docket that I wrote. My signature is wrong. It's not even it. My phone number, you know when you write a docket, there's always your phone number and the signature. The signature wasn't mine. The phone number. And I said, how does this happen? The police officer could not even explain anything that I could hear. Until then, I also started making noise at the president's office.
Oh.
They are the ones who actually
So
encouraged.
which year is this now?
This is now 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, and before that, I had even, I'll show you the emails that I actually sent to Prophet TB Joshua explaining my case. He even called me, and he even called me, full stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then so you went to court, obviously,
Yes.
and you refused to talk to them. You went to court.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
I lost my case in court.
Why?
I did not have enough evidence. It was just my word against him. And also because it was my first time, I had never gone to court before. I didn't know all this process that before you go to court, you actually need to submit your evidence. I had not maybe done my proper research.
Right.
I was actually excited about going to court. I even sent overseer a message saying, I'm so excited. I wish court could be nearer. You know how it is when you're confident and you know
But why are you
everything's in order.
sending the overseers when they're the people that you know they work with the prophet?
I wanted them to tell him kuti vanyatsokwata vanyatsozoti ya now ndakuzovanyudza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand. Then what happens after that?
So in court now, this is where I lost my
you
case.
lose the case, and you continue talking to them. And so because there is a part that then you get invited. Remember we to the part then at what point did they agree now to see you? The prophet was it after the court, do you get into his presence or not?
No. From that time, no. Him calling me, we actually, in between the two death threats, that's when I saw Prophet Magaya.
Okay, so I want you to talk about your time because this is where something big happened.
Yeah.
That escalated because I think it's important because Yakabudam newspaper.
Yeah.
I think so. I want you to talk about that meeting.
Yeah. In his presence, I knelt and then he said to me, I can take a seat, of which I did. And then after discussing from the time the death threats, he kept on saying, no, I didn't send Jimmy, that's James Zamu, the guy. No, he just came because he felt, whatever he was explaining. I said, okay, but obviously I knew it was him. And then after discussion, I thought he said, okay, even if you don't want to come to church, I'm just going to pray for you so that God will bless you. Okay, I said, okay, no, I'm not I wasn't about to start another fight, I said, okay, let me just allow him to pray for me and then I go. Instead of praying for me like this, Prophet Makarebaka, and I'm kneeling down, I'm also tall. Instead of him laying his hands on me, he grabbed my breast and he kissed me.
Wow.
That's when pandaka screama kudaro ndopa vakandisiya. And then I walked out. Sorry, dzokati taure. What? I just walked out. From that day, and did not so much in his presence again.
Oh, citizens, this is something that is very hectic. That a man of God in courts is being alleged to have done to women, and I think the question becomes how many more women are going through this, whatever else is happening. I want to ask, has there ever been an exchange of money other than the envelope between you two?
Yes.
What was the money for?
I want to leave that to when I'm preparing. I'm now preparing for court.
Thank you, I understand that.
Yeah.
Would you, in general, think that of all these women who have come forward, have they been given money to either be quiet or to not proceed with their cases? And would you think that money could be one of the reasons why they don't continue with their cases?
I think yes, money could be a reason why they don't continue. I'm saying so, especially in the case of Nyari Mashayamombe, because the way she just, the way she just acted as if her mother is the one who is insane, and I think, yeah, there was an exchange in money. And as for Sarah Maruta, I would want to say definitely. On that one, definitely. Why I'm saying so? Because you realize from my messages with Sarah, she was the one who I introduced her to Garikai Mazara, that's true, but I never forced her. And even from messages that all of you can see after this recording, some of them I even sent them to you.
No, you also sent me the recorded voice messages, the conversation between you and Sarah, where she's actually heard in those voices celebrating. But she also says something in your text exchanges that you shared with me that well, I don't want to quote her because she's not here, and I haven't done forensic searches to say is it really her or not. But what would have been some of the reasons why you think Sarah would have suddenly stopped to cooperate? Because from what I saw, if it's her really, she was with you. Let's celebrate her. Let's move on. Let's report. Let's do this, that, and suddenly a halt. And I note the halt where Sarah stops, where the alleged Sarah in your phone and in your text, where she stops talking to you when the first meeting you have with Garikai. When you say, in fact, there's a message that you say, Sarah, because as we have agreed to go forward with the public, I am also going to see Garikai. I think you actually invite her along, and then I note there is no response in that message. And then you go on to say, I don't know whether you had a phone call in between or not, and then you go on to say, I just went to see Garikai, my sister, it would be good for us to go. Sarah does not respond again. And then, so I think there are further messages that Sarah does not respond to. And I think in that moment, she's probably saying, I have not consented. Had you spoken to Sarah before you went public? Because I can say, I've seen your messages when you guys are together, Murufamba AGM together. And then suddenly, when you escalate things to go public, Sarah makes a halt. Did you engage Sarah to say, let's go public? I am escalating this with Garikai. Did you do that to get her consent?
Yes, I did. Even before I left Malawi, you will see from my passport, the reason why I came back was because of this story. I would have been in Malawi right now. But as I was speaking to Sarah in Malawi, she's the one, I think you will see those on Messenger app, because those were not in my WhatsApp, on Messenger app, whereby Sarah was saying, yes, Ande, please, kumapuri sandimirire, tigwenda tese, I want to join you. Those were her exact words, not me. So I don't know now how she can say, I
can understand. So remember when we were meeting for this meeting, there's a time I called you when we were at our sport, and for about 10 minutes you were not responding on your other phone. And I called you on the other phone, and then you picked. In that moment, I thought you'd also chickened out. And I could understand that. Why? Because the issue of reporting cases of abuse are not light. They're huge. And I can understand. I know a lot of people are judging Sarah right now, or whoever else has withdrawn. It's hard. And I think in many other instances, may not only Sarah but other people actually are beginning to think, and certain even message Sarah video so a lot of women, would you think it's actually it's a reason why women don't continue with cases, especially young women who are abused, the shame we are possible husbands? Do you think it could be one of the reasons?
Oh, I think it is one of the major reasons, because people tend to start looking at you with that eye yekuti wakambonzwai, wakambodai. Na especially a person akaita kunge Prophet Magaya is a person yekuti jasiyana nokuti andambodane mkomani down the street whom nobody knows. But in this case, I think it's different. And for Sarah, I thought so too. Even you see from her messages, there's a lot then she started saying. Because for her, she also sent the message, Yekuti, I told Garikai to wait with this story. But Chakamu Boande Chokti, Garikai akakasika ku release. After Sarah had even gone a day before, begging Garikai kuti imbomira kubulitsanyaya. Aida kumirechi. That one I think, I don't know. Well, she says kuti, her boyfriend enge aramba.
Okay, I don't want to talk about people's boyfriends. Oh. Yeah, which is fair enough because she's seen. I mean, if you watch that video, she actually says just but what about? And I think in another text, another straight text that I don't want to talk to you, actually ask someone who refuses to assist you in your story or to go to the police with you, where you say, but what about justice? And unfortunately, I think a lot of people, especially women, sometimes are not thinking that about justice. What justice? My justice is me being able to be married. My in-laws not having to see me as prophet. But are we still, as a society, having to think and stigmatize women, or to actually empathize and sympathize with women, and then to shame the abuser?
You know what actually is fun is most women are the people that actually I'm being women for you.
Right. And I think as we're coming to the conclusion of this conversation, I have a few more questions for you. Where we say, I noted when I was watching the parents, the Mayanzanise family, the mother and the father narrating their story, there was a desperation to go and see the prophet. And I see the same desperation to go and see Magaya, to say we want to talk to him. And I think I can understand, because Muna told the power yako. So by so wanting to ask him, to face him, they say, why did talk about this? People need to own these stories and to actually say, I'm not ashamed to tell that I am abused, because more than 33% of women in this country have been abused, and it's worse now that it is a disease in the church. So we are saying, as Identities, if you have gone through this, if you want to tell your story, we are here. As long as you also have corroborating or supporting evidence or whatever, or even if you don't have your evidence, we're here to work with you. And we've also approached the Ministry of Women Affairs, the minister herself, to say, I think these women need your help. So we are just not doing this. And whoever organizations want to work with the ladies that have come forward, we are happy to give you linkages with the ladies. So what do you wish as yourself to say, when we decided to go public, you made a decision to go public, what did you want to achieve?
I want this to come to an end. It has to be stopped.
What
Magaya
needs to end?
has to be stopped. You know, I think to say, is everybody just hating Prophet Magaya from Norway, or there is something happening? So they need to investigate. We need protection. This is our country. Right now, I'm staying outside the country. It's not because I want to, but it's because I feel I'm not safe here. That's why I decided
Do you
to.
also feel safe in Malawi? Because they know I saw. And there are also many men who believe you, who stand with you, and know that you're not alone. I totally respect you and absolutely thank you and honor you, because you're not going to be popular in this country. I know a lot of Vanavana Papa, whether you died Papa. But I'm just saying there is a lot of money flaunting around. I'm saying this because I need to also make the nation know that this is things that are happening. And so I wish that if I can't say this was directly from Magaya, maybe somebody was trying to trick me as well to say, oh, if Nyari agrees to settle, because Monaka need to wear to settle. Ndikati settle what? Chikanzi vati ngatuye titaure. Ndikati no, the only settlement that I would say is ngauye titaure apindure nyika. So I just need the nation to stop blaming my victims and to actually begin to think kana mchena machechi koko simudze tisanyudze misoro mujecha titare chokwadi. So that is why. So my sister, thank you again. We salute you. You may not see, we hope the authorities will take steps into investigating the church, or maybe if Magaya needs to step aside of that church so that he can be investigated. We are hoping the authorities will do that. But what you can't do is to force this country's authorities to do that. This country's authorities will choose that, but you have done your part. It's their responsibility to dig into this matter. It's their responsibility to make sure that every claim, nasi claim ikawuya mangwane kumkaya kava. The moment somebody reports today, immediately they turn around. Why? And I think it's important for the nation to do that. We're hoping the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Gender Commission, the Republic Police, everybody, even the President's office, should investigate this case. Women matter. We are 52% of this country, and we hope that the government does that. But you have done your part. Your security should be assured by the authorities in this country. And we're hoping every person, every woman who comes forward to share their stories, they will not be intimidated to not speak. Nyari Mashayamombe, my sister, do you have anything else to say before we say goodbye to the viewers? That was us on Identities Conversations, viewers, and we were talking to Mrs. Charity Dlodlo, who has come forward to talk about the alleged sexual assault and abuse of women in the PhD ministries, and also the abuse of money in that ministry, sharing her story, being bold to share her story, and calling for help as well. So until next time, have a good one. Goodbye. Oh, my sister, thank you so much.